Are we ready?
Yeah.
Episode 2.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of 3 MFAers on. Today, we're going to be talking about The Godfather, an obvious classic. I'm Brandon McPherson. I'm an actor from Toronto, Ontario, and I have my master's degree from the Actor Studio Drama School. I'm here with Josh.
What's up? Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I like your intro.
Okay.
Josh, introduce yourself.
Josh
okay,
Yeah, Josh, you do it.
I'll do it. Joshua Stir here, actor, director, got my directing MFA from the Actor Studio Drama School as well. And Caleb.
I'm Caleb John Cushing. I'm an actor, writer, and filmmaker, and you're not going to believe this. I also got my MFA from the Actor Studio Drama School.
What? Are
I
we
know.
3 MFAers?
I think we might be.
Yeah, so right now we're all trying to survive the apocalypse, and The Godfather seemed like a nice movie to, help all our collective motivation during that time.
Are we just jumping right in? I mean, there's a lot
Absolutely.
to talk about, so maybe we.
I was giving a little intro on where we're going.
Perfect. I like that. Before we get going in, though, I want to, it's been a few days. How are you guys holding up? Had a weekend? A lot of news happening.
You guys were talking about this a little bit before we started, but the fact that it's definitely at least going to be another month is just a heavy notion.
Yeah, I don't see a world where we get back to any semblance of normalcy until at least the summer.
Oh yeah, 100%. And the fact that it's only been 14 days, maybe.
So bizarre. All time is less meaning for me. I can't even.
It's so true.
It feels like
Ryan.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say Ryan and I have I saw a post on Instagram that said, or Facebook, that was there are no longer 7 days of the week. There's only 3: yesterday, today, and tomorrow. There's no more planning anything more than what are we gonna do tomorrow or today. Yeah.
Or when you're talking to your friends and you're like, oh yeah, what do you got planned this week? What do you got going on? And that's not a question you can ask right now. Nobody is allowed to do anything.
Exactly. I think we're going to start our Harry Potter marathon. That's not on Freeform.
I know. I love Harry Potter. We should, for a 50th episode, we should just watch all 8 movies.
I'm so in.
So done. We start doing just series. Watch all the Twilights, watch all the Harry Potters, watch all the Godfather's already the other thing, but all the Batmans.
Please do not make me watch all the Twilight movies again. You know what helped me get through kind of my COVID concerns?
What's that?
What?
I was like, okay, I guess you guys don't want to know. No, watching a bunch of rich, entitled Hollywood elites sing a John Lennon song online, as if that would change anything.
You know what? I liked that. I know everybody's ripping on that, but they're just trying to be positive.
No, they're not. They don't want to lose their cultural capital. People aren't going to the movies. Okay. People aren't thinking about them. They're like, oh shit, I don't know. I'm annoyed about it. Especially that's a milder example, the John Lennon song, the Imagine cover. But I'm talking about people that, they got on Instagram and they're like, this is the great equalizer. Or Vanessa Hudgens being
that was bad.
Yeah, that was bad.
People
that was bad.
Or Sam Smith posting selfies of himself crying and being like, isolation's hard. It's you live in a fucking mansion.
Well, that's the thing. Did you guys watch the iHeart home concert last night?
No, I don't know what that is.
Elton John hosted an hour concert thing that all these artists sang songs from their studios or their apartments or houses or whatever, just kind of lift the spirit, something different, which I thought was kind of cool because you had Elton John there. He finally found a piano at the end, because his first joke was, in quarantine I'm quarantined in the one house I don't have a piano at. I'm like, really, Elton John? Really? You don't have a piano in one of your houses?
Order a new piano.
The guy, lead singer from Green Day, Billy Joe, sang Boulevard of Broken Dreams. You had Mariah Carey doing a song.
Appropriate.
You had, Sam Smith singing a cappella. But like, it was just like all these different like cameos and people saying, hey, hang in there. And, I love my boyfriend a lot. And the whole time we were just like, because they're like, do what you can, donate as much as you can, and like help
donate
out
as much as you can.
And
They're all
like,
fucking millionaires.
And it's like, how are you
ventilator shortage? No. There's
right.
a ventilator shortage. There's all this fucking shit. Like, and they're just being like, no, fucking like sing. Like, we're gonna sing songs. Like, you have the money and the resources to like help.
Right. Like how much have they donated?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's fucking bullshit.
That's kind of what we got to. Was like, why are you telling me to donate? I'm unemployed.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I don't know. That's
funny.
They got my like angry leftist hackles up.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, but who knows? Like, if I ever become like a famous director, actor, whatever artist, like, am I going to donate?
Yes, I am. I've already I actually had a conversation with my dad about this. I remember, like, not that I'm expecting to like become famous or anything, but I definitely don't want to be one of those people that has like 3 houses or like a private jet. Like, I'm definitely going to be like, like donating excess wealth to like causes I believe in and care about. Because
why would you need a private jet when you can just come fly on mine?
Exactly. No, I'll definitely like.
That was really well timed.
Thank
I
you.
would totally have real estate, like obviously, like on both coasts and like probably near my parents, like in Iowa. But other than that, like, I'll just fly on Brandon's jet.
No, I mean the reality is it's going to be, at least hopefully in a positive way, it's going to be a very different world after all this, and I think most people will be thinking more charitably and more about the world as a whole.
Exist after COVID?
Pardon?
Are movies even going to exist after COVID? Every fucking production's shut down right now.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Including Batman. Batman got shut down.
Yes, yeah, indefinitely. And not only that, Disney laid off all of their employees on all their Disney Plus productions. So not only are those productions shut down, but everybody working on those, all the PAs, all the grips,
really,
everything. Yeah, they were officially laid off.
It's magical place on fucking Earth, my ass.
But I think the idea is that with that, it allows all those people to go and get unemployment insurance, if I'm not mistaken.
True.
I think that's the idea. If they just put them on a hiatus, then they can't.
Yeah, you can't get unemployment if you're like furloughed or whatever. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it wasn't like a shitty move, like because the letter was public, the email came out.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And even in the email, it was like, you guys will be notified as soon as we're looking at coming back. But for now, this is so they're like officially released from the productions.
So none of the Disney Plus like Marvel TV shows are coming out.
No, all shut down.
Also down. Even so, Batman's not going to be made, or is it just going to be postponed?
It will. There's like way too much hype for it, but it's indefinitely. Like they don't know when they're going to film
Well, it's like Wonder Woman's coming out in August now, I guess, or something.
The only summer blockbuster that hasn't been moved is Chris Nolan's new movie. That is still slated to come out in June. Everything else has been delayed or like. And I have no idea. I think they're just like, we spent too much fucking money on this. Hopefully it's going to be over by then. But
what's his new movie? I think I saw a trailer and I completely forgot what
Tenet,
the title was.
and the trailer does not tell you anything about it. I have no idea.
Except that time goes backwards at times.
Oh, right.
It's Denzel,
no, it's like a cop. It's like a cop movie.
It's Denzel
where, like,
Washington's
he dies
son
or something.
and Robert Pattinson teaming up.
It
and then there's
trippy,
Kenneth Branagh is there. Pretty sure. I don't know. It looks fine. I mean, I don't know anything about it.
I don't know. Like, I just know that Christopher Nolan's track record in terms of these kind of movies, I've always enjoyed. So I look forward to what he's
batting 1,000.
Yeah, he's the man. He's the absolute man.
I haven't enjoyed his last couple, but he's definitely made some really fucking amazing movies.
Just things to make you think,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I watch Batman Begins and I ponder.
I watched a movie last night with Ryan. He made me watch Reversal of Fortune.
What's that?
With Glenn Close and Jeremy Irons. It's about the case of Klaus Van Bülow, like giving his like super rich Samantha Bülow or whatever, rich wife, like supposed insulin, putting her in a coma for like her money or whatever. But the interesting thing about it was that Alan Dershowitz was was a defense lawyer for Klaus, who had already gone through court, got the jury found him guilty on both accounts, and he was like sentenced to like 30 years in prison. But he contacted Alan Dershowitz to like defend him and like get him out of it. And it was interesting because it came out in 1990, and so seeing like the feisty characterization of Alan Dershowitz, because it's based off a book written by Alan, and then seeing him like this fall defend like Trump on the impeachment stuff, like was just fascinating. Because I mean, he's a defense lawyer; he does what he can if he has a client, and to like weasel his way like a lawyer does out of whatever. But it was just an interesting movie. I would say check it out. It gives me the same feeling as like A Few Good Men or like those kind of movies.
Yeah, I haven't heard of this, but it's got my main man Jeremy Irons in it, so I gotta check it out.
You gotta check it out. He's like the lead. He's so cool. Yeah,
definitely one of like my favorites of all time.
So yeah, check it out. It's on HBO Go and Amazon, I believe, is when I looked up the list, the link you sent us, Caleb.
Yeah. Just watch.com.
I think it's on HBO. So
well, sorry, Brandon, but said sorry. I don't know if it's in Canada, but in America we have HBO.
Oh yeah, you don't have to say sorry.
Sorry,
yeah, I didn't. I said sorry.
Oh, did you say sorry? Sorry.
I said sorry.
Sorry.
Oh my god. What else? So,
can we talk about how I got excited for all these movies to come straight to your home, but then you still have to pay $20 for them? Yeah. So it's like instead of buying 4 movie tickets for your family, you only buy 1 movie ticket.
Yeah, but also like right now the movies that have come out, I have very little interest in.
Right.
Oh, dude, there's so many like indie movies that I've been really looking forward to that have been delayed, and I'm really pissed. There's like lots of small releases. There's this movie called The Climb, which is, I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it, but it's like chronicling like 2 men and their friendships as like they go throughout the years and they grow together and apart. It looks really, really good, and it like won big at Sundance when it premiered.
Who's in it?
It's just 2 people who wrote and directed it themselves. Like it's like very, very indie, and that's what I like about it.
Oh, nice.
There's a movie by a filmmaker called Hirokazu Koreeda. He won the Palme d'Or 2 years ago for Shoplifters. His new movie, it's his first English language movie. It's called The Truth. Was supposed to come out. That got delayed. I'm looking forward to that. He's a good filmmaker. I was kind of looking forward to Mulan. That got delayed. I was looking forward to Antlers, like an indie horror movie. That got delayed. I'm fucking pissed.
Antlers was the Native American one, right? The myth.
I don't know.
It's the kid in the attic, right? The kid.
Yeah. I was looking forward to that. I haven't seen a trailer or anything. Just like the premise. I don't know. There's like lots of shit, but I'm excited.
There's a trailer for Antlers. You should check it out.
Well, no, I don't want to because I know I want to see the movie. So why would I spoil myself?
I don't know, Caleb.
But I am looking forward to.
Hates trailers.
I hate bad trailers. Like when a trailer is good and like doesn't spoil anything and just is like a bunch of like flashing images and like mood music that like sets the tone. I like it. Like, I don't know. Like actually, the Tenet trailer is like pretty good because I have no idea what the fuck's going on, but I know it looks cool.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan does a really good job with trailers, but nowadays you're right, most trailers are like, here's the entire third act of the movie.
Yeah, like I was looking forward to Mulan. Actually, the second trailer got me interested in Mulan because it looks like they're doing it differently. Like all the live action remakes up until now have been like really bad, I think, but Mulan looks like it's actually doing interesting things with like wuxia, Chinese martial arts films. It's not like doing the songs. It could be good.
It's the story of Mulan, you know.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know. Like China has its problems, and there's like issues. Like whether if you choose to watch this movie, are you supporting? I don't know. It's like complicated morally, but I think the movie looks kind of interesting. So maybe if it's on Disney Plus, I'll watch it.
I guess I don't know the whole political backstory or the controversy with Mulan.
It's just, I mean, like China is kind of not a great country. Or the government of China is doing lots of shady shit. Yeah, but I live in America. I don't have a choice. I have a choice, whether I choose to support a foreign, nation's interests. I don't know.
That's true.
Did you see that shit? We don't have to get too bogged down into politics, but that shit with the fucking WHO doctor and when he was asked about Taiwan.
Oh, I didn't hear this.
So an ambassador, I think from Hong Kong, was on a Skype call with a WHO, the World Health Organization, and she was like, "What do you think about or will the WHO recognize Taiwan?" And the guy didn't say anything for 10 seconds, and then she was like, "Hello," and he was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't hear your question." And then she's like, "Oh, it's okay, I'll ask it again," and he hung up on her. It was fucking unreal. Unreal.
That's pretty good politicking right there.
Yeah. But we don't have to talk about I just feel like I'm going to get on a rant. But I don't know. There are movies that look good that I want to see. But yeah, instead we can go see, I don't know, Frozen 2 is on Disney+.
Before everything got canceled, I was going to watch that because I was teaching kids acting classes, and one of them was supposed to be based on Frozen, and I hadn't watched the second one yet.
Oh, Jesus.
Yep, that was my life. Now it is not. So,
can you teach me acting through Frozen?
Mm-hmm. What else did I have to do? I did an entire class where I had to perform in my own version the story of Inside Out, and I hadn't seen that either. So I had to watch. Wow. Yeah, I had to watch that night before. If you ever try to explain Inside Out to 6-year-olds, doesn't make any sense. Too complicated for them.
What did you think of the movie?
It was a fantastic movie, but I'm sitting there watching it with my brother, and I'm freaking out because I have to explain this to kids the next day, and I'm sitting there being like, wait, so I have to explain the innermost thoughts and emotions of a person to 6-year-olds and explain how all this works? It was a lot.
Go. But
it went well. I just made a bunch of I made a bunch of puppets of the emotions and stuff. They enjoyed it.
Yeah, that sounds good. But I'm sure we want to shift gears in a second. But I just remembered I saw over the weekend this short film on YouTube that I think is really amazing, and I think you guys will both like it. So I'm just going to link it in the group chat, and maybe next time we can talk about it briefly in the beginning.
Yeah. What's it called?
It's called Rebooted, and I don't want to give anything away, but it's really, really, really good. Then maybe So I don't know, but sorry. I just wanted to make sure that I shout out Rebooted, shout out Michael Shanks, Australia Late Night Films.
That sounds amazing, and you just made me think. Before we get into The Godfather, I think that you should write a live action reboot of the TV show Reboot.
Okay, you think
that? I think that would. I do think that. I think that'd be a big hit, and I shot you playing Bob.
This is going to be maybe sacrilege. I actually never was into Reboot. I never saw it.
What?
I know.
You loved Reboot, man.
I'm sure.
That's so alley.
I think it was on, maybe it still is, or at one point, sort of semi-recently, it was on Netflix, and then it just looks so, dated and ugly that I just, never got into it.
The graphics comparatively now are not great.
Yeah, maybe you could do a really cool thing today. Maybe it's probably already a thing.
They did a couple years ago, they rebooted it, and it was half live action, half reboot. I never saw it, but
all right. Maybe I'll check it out. Anyway, we can totally start actually talking about the fucking
Godfather.
Yeah.
Should we get into The Godfather?
I think we should.
All right. So how do you guys feel about The Godfather?
I guess I can go first.
All right, let's hear it.
So, for a movie that's been considered one of the greatest of all time, I checked out at about 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Ooh. What was going on at that point?
Right after Marlon Brando's character died, and Michael came back from Sicily. And it was this whole last act of the movie. I was just shit, how much time do we have left? I don't know if it was because of the middle afternoon or, I also have an issue with movies like this. Maybe it's because I've been desensitized by blockbusters and Marvel, movies. But I love the craft of everything. I can appreciate, I can sit back and I can understand the acting and the film craft and the score and what the storytelling behind the film. But I did ultimately start as soon as Ryan and I started getting into who can do the best Marlon Brando impersonation, that's when I feel like it lost me. So, and that was about 2 hours and 20 minutes. So Caleb, if you want to go.
Wow. I hear, I think, the sentiment behind the disrespect in what you're saying.
Wow.
No, I mean this movie is almost 50 years old at this point.
Yeah.
It's inspired so much. It created a genre. It made every Italian American feel like they were from Sicily, like forever. It made a lot of people really annoying.
Sure.
But no, I mean, it invented, I think, or it didn't single-handedly invent, but it definitely like was a huge part in modernizing cinema. Like the early 70s was kind of the new Hollywood era, and this movie is incredibly influential. I think it's very, very well done. But there is something to be said for having experienced like almost 50 years of cinema since, and going back to the original, it can seem kind of like uninspired because it was the first. And it seemed it's very simple. It's a very simple movie. It's a very quiet movie, and I think it's obviously very, very good. But I agree that there were moments that I was kind of taken out of it. It's 3 hours long, and I don't know if it needed to necessarily be that long. I was reading the trivia. There was a cut that Coppola, his first cut was only 2 hours long. And then the studio was like, "This doesn't make any fucking sense." and then they had to expand it to 3 hours. And it's interesting. I don't want to like talk too much. I want to hear what Brandon thinks as well. But I definitely feel that a little bit. I felt a little let down, despite how each individual piece is. I feel like it wasn't as great as the sum of its parts.
Yeah, Brandon, go so we can get into
it. For me, the implications of that last 20-30 minutes with Michael like clearing the board, because obviously it's part one, right? So even at that point, like I feel like I know where you're. Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's three parts of it, and so like I felt what you felt with the cutting out kind of after Brando's death. But then, as I like stayed in and as I was watching it, you know, him in the baptism scene and him like clearing the board of all the other, you know, criminals, the implications of that are so heavy. And I genuinely just got so into the Michael Corleone character and what, you know, Pacino does through it. And I know it's weird me saying that because in our last podcast, I had the exact opposite reaction to Natalie Portman slow playing it at the beginning, you know, playing kind of the good side of it, and then having a switch and playing the bad, which is almost identical to, you know, Pacino in this as Michael Corleone. Right. But I was drawn in. I was sucked in, you know?
Well, that's because you're sexist, Brandon.
All right. Well, that's rude.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't necessarily. I don't agree with Josh's point in that it was like the last like half hour or 40 minutes. Like I don't regiment it that rigidly. Like it wasn't like, oh, like it's too long because the last bit. Like I agree that like kind of that last bit's actually some of the most exciting stuff in the whole movie. I just feel like as a whole 3 hour piece of cinema, like did we need 60 different shots of food? I don't know. That movie went on. That the wedding went on for half a fucking hour. Like,
right. Well, I had, you know, I like to step back and be that's when I started like checking the time. I still watched the entire, you know, all the way through, and like I understand the premise, especially of Michael taking over the family and making those moves. That was about the time that I was like, oh, let me check my phone, see what time it is. You know what I mean? Like, just because there is such a pace to it that we don't have the stamina for, I don't think anymore. Like, didn't The Dark Knight? The Dark Knight was 2 hours and 45 minutes, but I could watch The Dark Knight for 4 hours.
Dark Knight's not 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
Yeah, it was. It was like 2.5 hours, 2:45. No,
it's not. Dude. Dark Knight is 2.5. It's 2.5 hours.
All right. And either way, that movie I felt like went by like that, and I could literally sit there and whatever. But like for this movie, I was like, okay, like you said, the wedding scene, establishing status, whatever. And then you have like the family and things like that, you know, and then the whole Sicily, like him like overseas, like trying to like hide out for like ever. I kind of just felt like, okay, kind of get to the point. But I guess when you're creating a movie and they said 2 hours isn't long enough or is choppy, so make it 3 hours. Well, then I guess, I don't know, you know.
Well, yeah, it's also the problem of, oh, sorry, you can go, Brandon.
It's also, I mean, it's based on a book, right? And a very famous book.
Just gonna say, yeah, it's an adaptation. And so Mario Puzo's. Have you guys read the novel?
No.
No, I haven't.
It's very, very, very good, and that's something that actually it's this weird, like, simultaneously, I believe that it is very long, but also when you're writing a novel, you can do so much more about like internalizing like psychology, and you can really, I mean, you're getting into characters' heads because it's from their POV. And I feel like, I don't know how you guys feel about this. This is like, I mean, Brandon, you keep saying Pacino, but I felt that like we never saw the transition. Like we saw him before, like, and you know, and we saw like the two stages, but I feel like that year that we missed him, like the year time skip, when he just like shows up and with Diane Keaton is like, oh, I'm a year and now I'm the Don. I'm like, oh, I want to see that year. Like that's what I want to watch. I want to watch the transformation.
The change was at the dinner scene. I thought when he killed the police commissioner.
But then he goes to fucking Italy, and then he marries that fucking 18-year-old, and then she blows up in a car. Like we're seeing all of the like pieces, like the setup, and then it's like, okay, now he's going to become the Prince of Darkness, and then we miss him for a year. And then he comes back and he's the fucking mafia guy, the mafioso Don. And I feel like
story-wise, I definitely see what you're saying. Acting-wise, you can see it in Pacino, right? You can see that it's almost a completely different person with a completely different mindset. And I thought he did a phenomenal job of doing that. You know,
at the beginning, I'm not trying to say that he did a bad job, but I'm saying like
I'm just saying I saw the switch in him. But I understand what you're saying. Story-wise, it's like, where's that internal... Nowadays in a movie, you'd have a scene where it's him on his own, freaking out, or whatever it is that very much exemplifies this change.
I mean, nowadays, it would be a miniseries.
Well, that's it.
And I think it actually, like, honestly, like, should have been. Or, like, that material would benefit from, like, I don't know, like 3 2-hour episodes. Like a BBC style. You know what I mean?
I did find, though, overall the timeline a little confusing. That was one of my biggest critiques, is I would sit there and I would go, wait, how much time has really passed? Because it says that it was from 1945 to 1955, but it wasn't clear because there wasn't those like subtitles saying, hey, 10 years later, 5 years later, 1 year later. It was all in the script, and I guess, Caleb, you can like, I mean, it was obviously a different time, you know, back in the 70s making movies. Maybe you didn't need the subtitles, but I did find myself catching, like, wait, how much time has actually passed between, you know, this moment and this moment? Because it was confusing for me throughout the movie. I would just like to say that.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily find the timeline confusing, as in I don't understand what's happening, but I agree that like they didn't necessarily convey the passage of time well. Like as in like how much time has passed, but I understood the story. Like I wasn't confused about what was happening.
No, but like until he says to, you know, his wife when he comes back, like I've been back for like almost a year. I had no idea how long.
And it's like, what?
Yeah, I was like, what? and she should have been like, fuck off.
There was definitely something cut there for sure. There was like a montage or some shit that was cut.
There was like 5 like interlude scenes that they cut. That was probably, I mean, there's like lots of little stuff establishing stuff, but I mean, everything else is, I think they were relying on the strength of the performances and the cinematography and everything.
And I mean, the strength of the performances is there. I mean, I think everybody's almost infallible in that. Like
my favorite is the fucking guy in the beginning, Luca. He's like legitimately such a bad actor. They put like a scene of him practicing his lines in there to justify.
That wasn't a characterization.
That was because he was nervous from meeting Marlon Brando. That's real.
Wow.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, that guy. No, even more so. That guy was an actual gangster. If I'm not mistaken.
Coppola is adamant that nobody in the cast was an actual gangster.
Oh, really?
That could obviously just be him kind of being like, no, what do you mean? Like just kind of saving face. He might have been. He looks the part for sure, but Coppola is officially on record saying no.
Wow.
His death scene was something special.
I think that all of the death scenes were really well done. I was pleased with the violence. I mean, the only time I was taken out of the violence is the scene where Sonny is beating up Carlo, because it's so obviously fake. Like you can see him missing punches, and it's really, really bad choreo.
Yeah. When Sonny's beating him up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was a hook that I was like, oh, okay.
It was so he missed his fucking face by a mile. But I mean, what are you gonna do? It was the 70s.
Yeah.
You know
Well, here's the thing. You also saw once he got shut up near the toll booth, you could see him breathing on the ground. Maybe that's because it's the 70s and you didn't have to hold your breath. I don't know. Maybe because the takes were so long.
That one to me, I mean, I don't know. I've never been shot, so I don't know how long it takes to bleed out. But I think the most egregious case was like when I'm like watching somebody miss elbows and like miss knees. Like I'm like, fuck, dude. It's like the only thing I'm looking at, and then all the extras are around. Like, oh my god.
Well, it's so funny because I at one moment during the baptism scene, or towards the end of the movie, right? I was like, is that the same, character that was beating up his sister? Why is he still around? And Ryan's like, that's not the same guy. And I was like, that's totally the same guy because Sonny was on his way to kill him, and then he got killed. So you have to like keep kind of track of like how. And then the whole scene with his sister like getting mad at Michael for killing him, and he didn't confess to it. Like I thought that was so cool. Like just kind of, you can ask me one time about my business, and he lies about it. Like what? Oh god.
Yeah.
So cool. But I would like to. Can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry for cutting in. I think what didn't help with the timeline was Al Pacino's like eternal black eye while he was in Sicily. I feel like him getting punched by the cop and then his time in Sicily, that bruise should have been gone a long time ago. But he had the bruise the entire time.
Yeah, well, that's because, like, I think I found that kind of weird too. Like, this is a guy who is a war hero. They like verbally say that, right? Like, he's fought in combat, and like this cop like punches him once and breaks his jaw. I was like, what a pussy.
Well, that's not really how breaking things works. I think it's a matter of you being a pussy.
Well, no, but I'm saying
when you get punched in the face, things just break.
No, but I'm saying like, wow, like all it took was one punch and his jaw's broken. Like if he's supposed to be this tough guy, I'm being facetious and I'm obviously joking, but like, but it was just kind of funny how he got like decked once and like all these other dudes are getting the shit kicked out of them and like there's like and he just fucking gets hit once and he's like and then like Robert Duvall had to be like, what the fuck's the matter with you, like we gotta
real quick before we get into Robert Duvall, Lenny Montana, the guy who played Luca Braccio, was an enforcer for the Colombo family, which was one of the actual 5 families.
Oh wow! Oh, then maybe I read it wrong. Woodcopolis.
Well, he was also an actor, and he was a professional wrestler as well as an enforcer for the Colombo family. Because that's what Wikipedia says. So that could also be a lie. That being said, Robert Duvall was like the core of the movie, in my opinion, and just moves the whole thing along and was phenomenal.
Robert Duvall actually like. I don't know if this is controversial, but that he might be my favorite performance in the movie.
I thought, he's like the core of the movie. He holds everything together.
Such an interesting character, and I think like, and this is something. Right? Like, and that's what I'm talking about. It's something from a structural standpoint. Like a lot of movies, you'll have like one outsider perspective to like carry you through the world and the story, and this movie has 3. And through different like degrees, where you have like the most outside perspective of Diane Keaton, Kay, who's like not Italian. She's like dating, or I don't know. I think she's just dating Michael in the beginning, and she's just like, wow, like what's this? She really annoyed me because it was like so obviously like a vehicle to tell the audience about like the underworld. Like she would always be like, what's that? And Al Pacino would be like, it's this. And she'd be like, what do you mean? What are you saying? I'm like, oh, shut up.
It's just like, you know Frankie? Yeah, my father helped him out.
What did he do? Like, stuff. What do you mean? Yeah, it's like really fucking annoying. And then you have one rung up from that is you have Michael, you have Al Pacino, where like he knows about all this shit, but he's like been kept out of the family business very purposefully. So he's kind of like a sort of outsider in the beginning, and like most of the movie, like he's the protagonist. Like it's his transformation into Don Corleone. And then you have Tom Hagen, who like is very inside because he is the consigliere, but he's not Italian. He was never formally adopted by Vito. And then in the end, he's ostracized. He's outed because he's not, a true member of the family. And I found it like
what do you mean? Right.
He's removed as a consigliere. And he doesn't want to.
He's no longer needed.
He's heartbroken. Yeah, and I found it to be very.
He becomes head lawyer.
But it's not. But you can tell he's like, "What do you do?" Like he doesn't want to overstep his boundaries, but he's also like, "What are you doing?" Like it's a very interesting dynamic between them, and I feel like it's all of these things could have been explored more, and they are. Like I've read the novel a couple times; it's very good, and it's just a thing. Like when you're adapting to between mediums, like you have to like change shit and cut shit out. I think overall they did a very good job, but there's just like little stuff like that they don't get to expound upon as much as they would like to, maybe, you know.
I put a note that, drugs are the future. It's interesting having like a family in the 70s, right? Like being like, no, we do gambling because it's like clean, right? And then the drugs, narcotics are kind of what is the downfall to this, the dawn essentially to all of these families, and it was very interesting. I did enjoy the story, the characters. What I do enjoy and respect are the long shots. Like the fact that you have to really sit in it as an actor and like preparing for those scenes, you have to be on. There's not these like million different cuts, and things they can piece together. It's, that dinner scene or whatever the meeting specifically. I think that's the first thing that pops in my head, but that meeting between all the families was great because you had all these guys sitting there and they had to like really be in it,
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Brando in this?
I mean, I thought he was great. I think it's just tough knowing like everything you do about him and everything you know about like how he was at an older age. Like the other actors in some of the scenes had to have his lines taped on their chests for him to read.
Really?
Because it's like what quantifies a good performance, right? He was reading cue cards the whole time, and like
the entire time
he stuffed his mouth full of cotton to get like the bulldog look. Like I don't know, like it seems.
I was going to ask if that was prosthetics or if that was.
Apparently, he stuffed his mouth full of cotton balls, which I think is so funny. But it's just like like when what you're watching on screen is great, like it's brilliant, right? But it's like different paths on how to get there, I guess. And I don't know if it's less legitimate than a Daniel Day-Lewis or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think it is. The performance is still the performance, and it was still a fantastic performance,
But like learning your lines.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a difference between professionalism and the performance, and at that point, Brando was Brando, so the professionalism was apparently out the window. So,
is there? I don't know if there has to. I don't know if there should be.
No, I don't agree with it. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't take away from his performance, clearly.
So is there a standard that we hold, like, knowing what Brando has done in the past and his actions, but, like, kind of separating him from his, like, how he does his methods to, like, going from, Streetcar Named Desire when he first was starting out to The Godfather, where he just, like, he's still living off of, on the waterfront and shit like that. Like, he still has that, like, the vibrato about him, or, like, how do you say it? What's the word? Just, like, this machismo, I don't know.
I was forgetting words.
Always forgetting words. But he's like, I'm Marlon Brando. I can just sit here and I can, like, talk with nasally and flick my cheek and be an old guy, and it's just whatever,
But he wasn't just, that's the thing. It's not like he half-assed it, and even if he did half-assed it, that's like full-assed for everybody else, because he killed it. I mean, inarguably, he murdered it. I mean, you say The Godfather, and everybody in the world thinks of him as that character.
Which is crazy, because he has less than an hour of screen time.
Yeah. So it's here's
apparently,
the thing.
So I was just going to say that pissed Al Pacino off at the Oscars. That's what I was going to say.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, like, even now, I was listening to a podcast with Robert Downey Jr. talking about how for his last couple movies and like the Sherlock movies and that stuff, he's had a mic in his ear, piping in his lines. So it's not that this is like a totally crazy thing. Like, people do that, you know. So are you holding Robert Downey Jr. on the same esteem as? I mean, when you talk about Marlon Brando, people are like, "Oh, he's the greatest actor of all time." Yeah, but I do think Robert Downey Jr. on a talent level is one of the few people you can compare to him.
Of all time, dude.
That's my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I think on a purely talent-based level, I think Robert Downey Jr. is one of the best of all time.
I don't know if I agree. That's interesting.
But that's just me. That's how like I would put him on the same level as a Pacino or a Brando, you know,
or Daniel Day-Lewis.
or a Daniel Day-Lewis.
Nah, baby. DDL's the best.
No, but I see what you mean in terms of a technique. Like, when you get to a certain age, sometimes your memory slips, and like, are you going to spend the time getting stressed because you can't memorize
Right.
the lines, or just working on, have the lines there and however you need to get them. But as long as you get that final shot, you're all good. I don't think it should deter from the craft or from how he is as an actor. Granted, I don't know how many, side note, how many women he shoved a frozen butter stick up, but it's like,
what I'm saying is, if I'm
knows?
getting paid the 1970 equivalent of, if I'm getting paid the equivalent of like millions of dollars, I'm gonna learn my fucking lines. It's just like I don't know. I have a real issue with like,
was it his memory, or was it just him just not wanting to learn his lines?
Don't
I guess
know.
we don't know.
He had such a reputation of being difficult to work with on like every
By the
facet
end,
of like,
for
you know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Like it can't just, he wasn't
Gotcha.
that old too. That was the thing. He had to have age makeup. Like he wasn't that old.
Yeah.
Like he played older for that character.
Oh,
so it's not even
Apocalypse
that he
Now
was
is
like,
after.
yeah.
Which is like, he looks way 1,000 times younger in Apocalypse Now. He looks at least 30 years younger than that.
I mean, which I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. I have an issue with, kind of deifying these people who, like, I don't know. Do you, I mean, clearly I'm in the minority out of the three of us, which is fine. But I feel like it was a good performance, but I don't even think it was the best one in the movie.
I don't think it was the best one in the movie,
I'm on
but
the
I think
fence. I feel like, I thought Al Pacino had better monologue, but his character is written differently, right? Like, his character is like kind of groomed to be the next Don, right? So, in terms of if you see a movie like in its entirety, like hindsight, right? So like he's obviously gonna get the better scenes. Like I still love the dinner table when he shoots, when he goes in the bathroom and gets the gun. You know what I mean? Like him sitting there and you can see in his eyes. And this was a scene they showed during Inside the Actors Studio when they had Al Pacino on last summer or this last fall, I forget when the episode aired, or we taped it, but that was like the moment, like he kind of like you could see in his head that he actually really had to be present and be with those actors. Like, I mean, that's good for me. I don't need Marlon Brando as much. Except for the impersonation. That's all.
But here's my other thing, right? You're doing, and at the time, I've been thinking about this a lot. So I don't know if you guys know about like all of the stories about Al Pacino trying to get that role and behind the scenes, but apparently production really didn't want him. They fought for him, like Coppola really fought for him. He hadn't really done any other films. He was like a theater actor, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they'd done some stuff, but nothing as big as The Godfather. They were looking for somebody big to play that role. They tried to get what's his name who played Sonny? James Caan. They
wanted to get Warren Beatty and Dustin Hoffman at different points.
Just everybody else who's already famous, and Coppola was like, no, it's Pacino. Eventually, they decided to let him do it, and then even with that, because apparently they were filming in order for some reason, he didn't. It's the beginning of the movie where he's slow playing it, and he's a different person, and he's kind of this like boring, soft-spoken guy.
Apparently, his screen tests were like actually bad.
Well, and then
Really?
So here's the thing, and then it got to the point where they were apparently going to fire him. And from what I've heard, Coppola, or what I've read, Coppola was like, okay, we have to film one of the ending scenes so they can see you as Michael. And then they did that, and they were like, okay, good. Yeah, you're good. Just continue filming. But, even with that, that's got to bring your confidence really, really low as, like, the younger guys going into the movie, especially for something like that. To have Marlon Brando as Don Vito, as the Godfather, that had to be an incredibly massive boost and confidence builder for Pacino, in a way of like, oh, this is a pretty clear-cut handing of the torch.
Well, in terms of him performing the final scene to give confidence to the producers to make the movie, or are you saying walking in and being scene partners with Marlon Brando, knowing your history with the studio and things like that, like knowing Marlon?
Yeah, all of that, and then like him, obviously growing into Al Pacino. And, from that movie on, he never stopped murdering it and just killing it in acting.
Well, I mean, you can debate that with his recent filmography.
For sure, but he's Al Pacino. You know what I mean? He will always be considered one of the greatest.
I just feel like I don't like it when people rest on their laurels and use that as an excuse to get lazy. Like, Brando later in his life, like, all these fucking like 70s and 80s big shots who just like turn out shit now. It's like annoying, and I don't see the need to keep on glorifying them.
Have you guys seen The Hunters or whatever on Amazon?
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't. I've heard it's amazing though.
I've heard it's pretty pretty gruesome too. But I don't know. I haven't seen Al Pacino's performance in that, but that would be the latest thing to watch. Be like, is he still doing the work, or is he? Because I've seen him once in person at inside the actor's studio, and like the facts that he just kind of like. Standing ovation. And then like when we would ask questions about the craft and like what he did, he'd just be like, well, let me tell you a story for 20 minutes. Like I feel it was cool to see his personality, but like, you know what this is about. Like give us a little, unless it really is, he's just kind of like us, he doesn't really find himself to be
there's no way he doesn't have a massive ego.
I don't know about you, but I've never heard anything negative about him on a personal level. I've only heard positive things.
Just because you have an ego doesn't mean you're a bad person. I don't necessarily mean he's like
I'm just saying
causing trouble. I just mean like
it would be easy for him to be a bad person being, Al Pacino, but I've heard he's a super nice guy, which is great on top of everything.
If I was a fucking millionaire and I had a bunch of Oscars, I'd be nice too.
You say that, but
I say me personally. What do you say? What are you trying to say?
No, I still think that like he'd be great as like to have him as like a grandpa like at Thanksgiving time would be hilarious. And he seems like such a great guy to just like sit and just tell stories. But he's also he's Italian, right? Like he's a talker. But I just felt a little downhearted in terms of like having him come to inside the actor studio, being co-president of is he still co-president of the studio?
Yeah.
And just it wasn't about the craft of giving back. It was just shooting the shit with Ellen, So
that's what I'm talking about.
I wasn't there for that. So I wasn't there for that. I was back in Canada already.
But anyway, so getting back to The Godfather, I don't know, like it's just so funny to like walk around and like everybody has their own Marlon Brando impersonation. Like Gerard, hey Mustafa, he loves doing the impersonation. Like, and I just find her going, can you please like enunciate? But I guess that's Marlon Brando, right? He doesn't enunciate. That's the thing.
He had his mouth stuffed full of fucking cotton, so it was hard to like.
Why? But like, just
because he wanted him to look like a bulldog. He said.
Okay. Well,
I don't know why.
At least that's a good reason, man. That's
what do you guys? What do you guys think of Coppola?
I think he's amazing. I mean, I from all the movies of his that I've seen, I think he's absolutely fantastic and set up a bunch of stuff that we see all the time now. Sorry, I just saw something. It is also a TV series, eh?
What do you mean?
Hey?
They cut it together. Yeah, that's my Canadian coming out. They I guess in '77 they cut together the first and second movie as a 7-hour and 15-minute TV.
That's
thing.
What I'm fucking talking about, baby.
Yeah, so it is. There is a 4-episode miniseries.
It looks like they added some more footage too.
Yeah,
okay.
it's re-edited together in chronological order with additional footage added. So it's called the Godfather Saga.
I just want to be clear. I definitely think I'm not trying to like. It's good. Like it's a very good movie. But I feel like it's like anything it's been 50 fucking years. Like if you look back at like the first movies, it's like they're gonna seem primitive in some ways. I just felt. No, sorry. I was just gonna I was done with that, but I was just gonna talk about Coppola some more. But if you guys have something to add.
Well, I would in terms of just if we're gonna move on, the Godfather, I had some issues with the stamina of it, just because maybe I'm just not, I'm not a filmmaker, right? Like I love the acting, I love and I can watch it as, through the performances. I'm like, oh, cool, and I kind of envision myself like if I would be doing it or whatever. These movies are great to watch for just the strict craft of movie making, right? It's simple. the shots are simple. There's the score. There's the acting. Like everything is the storytelling is great, and that's what's going to happen if we go back to more classics or whatever. But yes, no, the film itself is great. Now, I have my opinions on whether it's the greatest of all time, but it is what it is. People have their own.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Brandon disagrees because he thinks it's Knight's Tale.
Perfect.
Hey, I'll argue that all day.
But I will have to say because I'll probably cut out here because I'm looking through Coppola's filmography and like as a director, and I don't think I've actually seen a lot of his stuff, so I'm not going to be able to comment too much.
I just saying, like, I feel similarly about him that I do about like all what we're talking about with like Brando and everything. Like, I don't know of a filmmaker who was held in a higher regard that like fell off harder. Like he really fucking like took a dip.
Did he?
Like, no, dude, he's still making shit, and that's what's ridiculous. Like the last, I think, the last like great film he made was probably Rumblefish in like the 80s, and then you look at like his like 90s and early 2000s filmography, he's like still making shit, and it's all bad because he's lazy. Like it's just kind of like ugh, like I hate it. I hate watching artists like decompose in real time.
But he's just EPing stuff. Like he hasn't.
Oh, he's directing stuff, dude. No, he is. Look at his filmography on IMDb.
I'm trying to look.
I mean, he has
you're right.
Like,
you're right.
Distant Vision, Megalopolis.
Yeah,
not a lot of stuff.
There's this awful movie he made this past decade. It's called Twixt. It's starring Val Kilmer. Just look up the trailer for it. It's abysmal.
Yeah, it's 2011.
Yeah, it's terrible. but it sucks because he made The Godfather. He made Apocalypse Now. He made Finian's Rainbow. He did the S.E. Hinton adaptations like The Outsiders and Rumblefish. Like these like undeniable classics. I know The Godfather Part 2, and people have their opinions about Part 3. But I mean, like,
what do you think happens?
It's incredible. He got old and he got old and he got lazy. He got old and he got lazy. When you're not hungry, it's hard to like, so I get it. How do we
fix that? Stay hungry?
Stop paying fucking people billions of dollars when they do shit work.
I don't know. I think he's epic, man. I think he's just chilling probably now, which I also understand. That being said, at some point we should talk about The Outsiders on another podcast because that audition process is the most prolific thing in like Hollywood.
Yeah, one of us can probably recommend it at some point.
Yeah,
I like that. That's another really good book.
Fantastic!
Isn't there a TV series, The Outsiders now?
That's a different thing.
Yeah, that's not like. Okay. Yeah, that's like. Is that vampires or some shit?
It's Stephen King. I saw it. It's not good.
Great.
I would like to talk about Joe Cazale.
John Cazale.
Yeah. Do you guys know about him, John Cazale?
Yeah, I mean, the whole story... I mean, you can tell it if you want to.
So, did 5 movies in 6 years, and then, unfortunately, passed away from lung cancer. But every one of those 5 movies got nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, shit, bro. Wow.
Yeah. How
well, and also, technically 6, because he's in flashback scenes for Part 3, and that was also nominated for Best Picture, so even in death.
Right.
He was engaged to Meryl Streep. I don't know if they ever got married.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And Pacino was saying that she stuck by him. Like he got a terminal lung cancer diagnosis, but he kept working. Like he did his scenes on The Deer Hunter, and then died shortly after his filming completed. But she apparently like stuck by his side like till he died on his deathbed. And he said that he had never seen like a more like a bigger proclamation of love. Like he had never seen anyone love another person that much. It was insane. He was apparently that's a guy. John Cazale was a guy that like actually nobody had anything bad to say about. Apparently he was just the best.
Yeah. I read that he was like really good friends with Pacino growing up. They'd done theater together. Also, to what you were saying, when the studio discovered he was suffering from cancer, they wanted him removed from the film. His co-star and girlfriend Meryl Streep threatened to quit if he was fired.
I mean that's so shitty. Like,
you're amazing of Meryl Streep.
They're assholes, man. I really care about money.
It's almost like Hollywood is a predatory industry full of like pedophiles and like disgusting monsters. But that's fine.
Yeah, but that's that's just what I think.
Anyway, I want to be an actor when I grow up.
Yeah, hey, cast me in something. I need a Godfather to get me into movies. That's for sure. I need a Godfather
buddy.
to send somebody over to Hollywood and say, "Give Josh a role."
Oh, speaking of that scene, that's so funny. Did you guys? I didn't know this, but apparently that was a real horse head.
That's gross.
That's not.
But it was.
That's not possible.
No, I think it was because PETA got really mad, and then and Coppola said, "Oh, we got it from a dog food factory. They were going to kill it anyway." I was so shocked that it was. Yeah, it was like a. Yeah, I mean, I don't. It was a real horse head. I'm assuming it had real blood in it.
Well, Ryan told me it was one of the most famous scenes in cinema, and I was like,
"Yeah,
really? Okay." But like, shit.
I mean, it's fucking pretty shot. I mean, I think it's great. I think that scene is great. I think honestly, one of my favorite scenes is the very open. I think it's so powerful, especially like where we are today, to like open a movie with the words like "I believe in America" and like that like amazing long monologue about how he's like disillusioned with justice in the process, and like he has to go to the underworld.
Like the slow pan out,
it's such an incredible fucking opening shot.
Yeah. I love the there's a difference between justice. So you say you're my friend, but I haven't seen you until you need, it's not justice. Your daughter's still alive. You know what I mean? Like how there's still morals and standards even for a godfather who literally will kill people.
Well, and then even when that guy leaves, he's like, he tells them just to beat the guy up. We're not murderers.
Yeah. He's like, I gotta make sure that people that lose control. With his fucking cotton mouth. Everybody go around. Everybody go around and do Brando, a Pacino, and a James Caan.
Not doing it. Not doing it.
Do a James Caan. Do a Jimmy Caan.
Not doing it.
Bada bing, bada boom.
I'm terrible at impersonating.
Dude, he was great. He was great too.
It's his second best role after Elf.
Yeah, he was really good in Elf. It's fair.
No, actually, he's interesting. James Caan. I haven't seen very many films he's been in. I feel like I think Elf was kind of the last big movie he was in. But apparently,
you mean that's Step Brothers? Wasn't he in Step Brothers?
No, that's Richard Jenkins. You fucking idiots! You fucking stupid piece of shit.
I don't think so.
No, Richard Jenkins was in Step Brothers. James Caan was Will Ferrell's dad in Elf.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He was actually one of the very few non-Italians. He's Jewish.
Really?
Yeah, and apparently people were mad that he was cast originally because he didn't look Italian. I didn't notice until after.
No, I thought he looked pretty Italian. I don't know.
Well, because he said that he grew up in those neighborhoods and he hung out with those guys. And there's like moments that he apparently has like a very like huge temper in real life. Like the moment in the beginning when he smashes the camera, that was like non-scripted. He just did that. But
that's also like it's weird that's not scripted because that makes sense, No,
that's what I'm saying. It's the mark of a good actor who can like. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he was necessarily being safe, but to be able to improvise in character and make it seem as though it was intended he was great. You're right. The only person
throws the cash down.
Yeah. The only person that I didn't really like was Diane Keaton, but that's I think because she was underwritten. I don't think that's her fault.
No, I agree. I think that's a very character thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually really liked Adrian in this, Talia Shire.
I thought she was great. Yeah.
Yeah. And apparently she's Coppola's sister. So look at that.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. First couple scenes, I'm like, is Sarah Silverman in this movie? But then
I think she actually looks a lot like Kristen Milioti, the mother in How I Met Your Mother. I think she looks a lot like her.
Oh, somewhat.
But I think Sarah Silverman too, for sure.
Totally off topic, but have you seen Mythic Quest yet?
Oh, I haven't seen Mythic Quest yet. I'm gonna.
Episode 5 of Mythic Quest is, and I know I say this a lot, but I mean it very genuinely, is one of the most beautiful episodes of anything I've ever seen. And it's completely it's nothing to do with the rest of the episodes, and it's her, the mom from How I Met Your Mother, and
her name's Kristen Milioti.
Her and Jake Johnson, and they're unbelievable in it.
Cool. Brandon likes to say that about a lot of stuff, like the best thing he's ever seen. But I
really enjoyed it.
I will still agree. I will still watch it. I'm just saying it's something that you got to
really
get used to. Every movie Brandon watches is the best, which is something I think is good because I hate everything.
Yeah.
Brandon loves everything.
I'm a positive Peter.
Boys, it's anything kind of still stewing in the back of your heads that you wanted to see with the Godfather. I know it. Probably 45 minutes isn't like a terribly long time to talk about a classic, but
I just thought it was great. Now I would like to see, and they probably should never remake this, but if they do, I would really like to see Al Pacino play the Godfather.
Well, I mean,
that'd
he
be
would be
interesting.
Michael. That'd be interesting. Like,
but get some awful person like Miles Teller or something, or Timothy Chalamet. I would hate it.
No, me. You get me. Me.
That's true.
Brandon, you're Jewish.
So what?
You guys both have the same nose. It could work.
Yeah. Al Pacino's in a show called Hunters, where he's Jewish. I can play Italian.
Yeah, one of Al Pacino's most famous theater roles is Shylock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's like some people love it and some people hate it.
I don't know how I feel about it. I think
it's good.
I don't know. When you cast a non-Jewish person in that role that was already written to kind of like be a caricature of Jewish people, it kind of I see the complaint.
I definitely understand the complaint, but if anybody's going to do it not like an asshole, it's going to be him.
Sure. I guess I don't know. It's hard. We have been talking about this for almost an hour, but we've only really scratched the surface, and we haven't gotten into parts 2 or 3. Like, it's crazy. There's so much to dig into. But I definitely thought it was a really great movie, and thank you, Brandon, for making us watch it.
No problem. I also really, really enjoyed it.
I'm gonna have to check out part 2 and 3, obviously. So
people say that I've only ever seen the first and the second one on TV. Like, this was the first time that I had sat down to like purposefully watch it. I've never seen part 3.
I heard go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say people say the second one is like kind of like better in a lot of ways. It's where De Niro comes in as like a young Vito, and and that's kind of the good shit. They say that that's like kind of the best stuff. And then part 3 everybody hates, but that's fine. But yeah, do you guys are either of you guys comfortable giving a rating out of 5, or do you want to talk more?
Sure.
We can.
I'm ready to rate if you guys are. I just I got a side note from the assistant saying we should come up with something a little more original than stars. Like, if there's like in terms of I don't know what you guys like in series of 5, but I think it'd be fun to think about. We could talk about it on a different thing and do stars this episode, but maybe do something fun. Like, I would give it. No,
I give it 5 out of 5. Bada booms.
I get it 5 great red oak trees. I don't know.
I give it 5 out of 5 cannolis.
Are you guys both giving it a 5 out of 5?
I'm in context in the year that it came out, not watching it 50 years later. So I'm like erasing that. For what it is, I give it 5 out of 5. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it 4.5 meatballs. Italian meatballs.
I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5.
Fair enough.
Cool.
Fair enough.
I'm not a time traveler like Brandon is, so I have to rate it from the 21st century.
Brandon, you gotta give him that technology, man. You gotta give him that technology to go back in time like you can.
No, I built that DeLorean by myself, by scratch.
From scratch?
From scratch.
By scratch.
By scratch.
Yeah.
By scratching shit until it was a DeLorean.
That's funny. All right, Caleb. What's next as we sign off here soon?
Oh, sure. It's my turn. I had a movie in mind, but I'm going to save it because I had picked it before Brandon picked The Godfather, and I want to spice it up. So instead, I thought about it, and I don't know if this is going to be cool, but I have always wanted to see. There's a movie that came out in 1984. It just kind of got dropped onto American Netflix recently. I've always been curious about it. I don't really know anything about it, but I want us all to watch it for next time. It's called...
What is it? Tell me.
Purple Rain, starring Prince and the Revolution.
Okay.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either, but I'm down.
I think it'll be a very interesting conversation, especially, we have Josh who likes music. I'm a big Prince fan, and I also am curious as to how, from a writing standpoint, it's going to kind of be put together. So yeah, I'm excited.
Cool, Purple Rain.
I mean, it won an Academy Award for Best Original Musical.
There we go. I don't think that's a category.
I didn't think so either.
A musical comedy?
No, it says
Golden Globe.
It says Academy Award for Best Original Musical, so I guess it was a thing at some point. Okay. And Best Original Song Score.
Well,
that's not fair. The song is "Purple Rain" by Prince.
All right, well, let's can't wait to get into it next time. Obviously, and we had to somehow buy the rights to a clip of like a sound bite of Purple Rain. So Brandon, work on that. How much do I have to give you?
Okay. I will work on that. Somehow.
Thanks for taking one for the team on that, Brandon.
Just kidding. We can talk about it later. Awesome, guys. This has been fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to 3M Affairs on The Godfather, and join us next time for Purple Rain.
All right. Adios, guys.
Bye.
All right.
All right. Goodbye. All right.